Well, moving on to our next topic, probably of equal, if not more, controversy. Old boy Alec Baldwin back in the news. Well, for the same thing.
Well,
He hasn't.
yeah.
Yeah,
He hasn't done anything new.
he hasn't killed anybody else since
As
the last
far as we
time.
know.
So recently, he was on an interview with George Stephanopoulos a couple weeks ago, talking about the whole situation. And in the interview, he tells George Stephanopoulos, he tells George that
Yeah, always
he
call him
let
George.
go. Yes, he let go of the hammer, and the gun just kind of shot itself. Right, that he was doing everything right. He took the gun from the assistant director, which we've already discussed is not what is supposed to happen. Right, you're supposed to take it from
Right?
the armorer. So
Yep.
violation right there, the first thing. But so he puts out his version of the story, which is just, hey, I took the gun, I was playing around with it, I pulled the hammer back, and I just lifted my finger, let it go, and then the hammer fell, and boom, the gun goes off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people are not believing this version of events as you would expect, right? And
Yep.
neither are the authorities in New Mexico, because the New Mexico District Court, a judge, has just subpoenaed the assistant director, David Halls, the man who handed Alec Baldwin the gun. They are
Right.
subpoenaing him for his testimony on what happened that day, because he'd been avoiding interviews. I guess he'd been pleading the fifth with investigators. And now he says, nope, you cannot run anymore. You got to come talk to us. So what are your thoughts, Will,
Wow.
Mr. Firearms expert?
Well, kind of depends what you're looking for, but I guess we'll start with the first claim about the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not the first person to talk about this. There's a bunch of really great YouTube videos that talk about kind of the mechanics of why this can't happen. It's a single action revolver, so you basically pull the hammer all the way back, and then you pull the trigger, and it lets the hammer go forward. Except there's actually two stages the hammer can be cocked. There's like a full cock, which if you're wanting to shoot, and then there's something called half cock, which is essentially half the distance that the hammer can travel. And it's there, so if you pull the hammer back and you let it go by accident, half cock will catch it so it doesn't hit the firing pin and shoot a round off.
Right.
So Baldwin is saying that he was playing with it, pulled the hammer back a little bit, let it go, and it fired the gun. Now, in theory, if the gun was mechanically defective, half cock could, in theory, not work. But again, I think we're going to figure out fairly soon with pretty little investigation whether or not half cock works on this revolver.
Mm.
So that's the first thing that a lot of people are talking about, is that there's a very low chance that what he said was true, involving pulling the hammer back. So I don't know if that answers any questions,
Right.
but
There was a video circulating, an interview that was done with this guy Steve Wolf. I guess he's a firearms safety expert for films and stuff, and he's been doing the rounds on the news, kind of explaining, demonstrating exactly what you're talking about. So here's him doing that.
So the gun. And this is one of the big headlines from this interview. Alec Baldwin made the claim that he never pulled the trigger, that what he did was he pulled the hammer back and then released it. Explain
Okay, well,
to
I'll
us
show you exactly what happens.
Okay,
with that.
explain to me what he's claiming and how plausible that is.
Okay, so not plausible. On a single action revolver, when you pull the hammer back, which is an intentional act, click, 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 click. Now the hammer is set. When you pull the hammer back and let go, as you can see, I'm not holding this, the hammer doesn't go anywhere. When you press the trigger, which is, I'm going to do it with this finger so you can see what a minute act that is. It takes very little to press the trigger there. So option one, he pressed the trigger, but it was such a minor press that he wasn't aware that he had, ordered that signal from his brain. Or option B, he's holding the gun with the trigger depressed. Now, on this gun, it doesn't matter which order you go in. You can either cock the gun and you can fire it with the trigger, or you can press the trigger and then cock the gun And if you release it at this point, it falls and the gun fires. So if, as he is cross-drawing, his finger is on the trigger, which he may have interpreted as just resting on the trigger, but with a 1 millimeter pull, that would be sufficient. Now he pulls the hammer back and then releases it. He doesn't have to press the trigger again if he's already got pressure on it in order for the gun to fire. And I think that's really a key point in this matter.
Two other possibilities that I have seen raised, and everyone who raises them say almost minuscule chance that it could be. Number one, he didn't pull the hammer back to the point it clicked. Any possibility of doing that and discharging a bullet?
No, there are detents that catch the hammer, at each point in the way. I could let go at any point, and the firing pin never will impact a casing.
And then the last possibility is that somehow the gun itself was flawed, so that the mechanism that would cause it to click, as you have really very, very clearly pointed out to us, somehow didn't work. There was no click there, and that somehow there was nothing to prevent the hammer from going in. Any possibility of that?
Only an investigation that examines the interior parts of the gun could reveal that.
But unlikely in your experience.
Very unlikely. I've never seen it happen.
So yeah, I think this guy makes some really good points. I like the demonstration there. Again, if you're watching on YouTube or something, we'll put this up on the screen for you guys to see. But I do think it is kind of improbable, the story that Alec Baldwin puts forward, that, hey, I just took the gun from the guy who wasn't supposed to give me the gun. I didn't check it. I cocked the hammer back, and then I just let go when, boom, there it goes. And the cinematographer's dead.
Yeah. It's very interesting to see, because he's making a lot of excuses for things that he didn't, that were unfortunately on him. And he's definitely trying to pass that blame to other people. Now he's trying to say the gun was defective, and then before he was saying that obviously the fact that we're still missing the fact that there was a live round in the gun,
right? And
I don't know if we've gotten any more information on that, because that's definitely definitely something that needs to be investigated. But yeah, there was a lot of mistakes made in this one.
Mm-hmm. And, people are saying, it could be anything. And of course, lawsuits have been filed alleging everything, right? So, whether it was complacency on the set, there was a lack of care, whether it was entirely on Alec Baldwin for not checking the gun in the first place. This is where things just start to get a little complicated, and it's going to be bared out in court. But I didn't realize this. I read this article just a couple of days ago. I did not realize how close she was to Alec Baldwin. According to this article, she was 18 inches away from the muzzle when Baldwin fired and hit her.
Wow.
Yeah, I was thinking that this was kind of a longer range kind of thing where it just, he was further away, framing a shot or something. And now, according to this guy, special effects coordinator Thomas Gandy, I think that's how you say his name, the cinematographer was asking Alec to put his thumb and have his thumb working the hammer to do the shot. Because I guess the shot they were going to do. He was going to cock the hammer, and she was asking him to cock the gun. So that is, I guess, not in dispute. But the question just becomes, right? Was Alec Baldwin's finger sitting on the trigger or in the trigger guard when he did that? And was there enough pressure to boom send the gun going off?
Yeah, it's possible. And those guns have very short triggers.
Like you said, a millimeter pull.
Stunt guy. Yeah, millimeter pull is what the guy said in the video. So, if he's having a little trouble getting the hammer back, and he squeezes a little bit harder,
right,
pulls that hammer, back all the way and then lets it go. It's very likely. It's extremely likely.
Yeah, that's incredibly unfortunate. But I do think that interview was incredibly stupid by Alec Baldwin, where he goes out there with George Stephanopoulos, and and like they're saying, he's just trying to sway public opinion. No one on the set, I guess, according to this article, was very happy with what he did. People were just saying, he's out there trying to get the public on his side. So really unfortunate, the whole situation. And I really do think that it's Alec Baldwin's fault, right? I mean, he should have checked the gun. to see if it was clear before he took it. He probably shouldn't even have taken it from the assistant director instead of the armorer on the set. And now, of course, the assistant director is getting subpoenaed because he isn't willing to talk to the authorities about what happened. Now, I don't know why not. I mean, obviously, getting interviewed by the cops isn't like the most like wonderful thing in the world. But I feel like in a situation like this, you would definitely want your story to get out there unless, I don't know. I mean, obviously, pleading the fifth is not evidence of guilt or something, but it would
No.
be kind of like, it's kind of interesting. Why doesn't he want to clarify his side of the story, especially official? Because he hasn't spoken to the press. He hasn't spoken to anybody.
Yeah, I'm worried that it's a possibility that he knows something. Unless, I mean, it's possible he's so traumatizing he doesn't want to talk about it, but
And that's, I mean, it's possible.
I don't know.
I've heard people, and of course they always will, trying to circle this back to the Clintons. And there's conspiracies out there that Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer who got killed, that her husband was investigating the Clintons or something, and that the assistant director and Alec Baldwin were in cahoots and they were trying to send a message or something. It's some kind of weird conspiracy.
Yeah.
I haven't heard, of course, like that came out at the beginning, but I don't think it. I don't see any evidence for that. I think it's just a very unfortunate accident, and just kind of negligence, I think, on several people on that set.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast it went wrong, because there's so many things that go wrong, and that's how it is with safety. I mean, you have all those different steps to minimize it, but once you break, I think they broke like 4 or 5 of them. It's just, accidents happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right, well, that's that. We'll keep you guys updated, and we'll be back with another Christmas break episode of The Loft sometime soon. Thanks for listening.